The Rockinell Show. On this podcast, we are featuring the George Burns and Gracie Allen Show and Sherlock Holmes, The Affair of the Politician.
The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show in color. Presented by Carnation Evaporated Milk, the milk from contented cows. Say, that is mighty good whipped topping. You know how it's made? Not with whipping cream, no indeed. It's made with Carnation Evaporated Milk. Watch how easy it is to whip Carnation. You simply pour 1 cup of Carnation into an ice tray and put it in your refrigerator freezing compartment for about 20 minutes. As soon as ice crystals have formed around the edge, you take it out, pour it into a bowl, and whip until foamy. That'll take about 1 minute. Then add 2 tablespoons of lemon juice and continue to whip until very stiff. That takes about 2 minutes. And of course, fold in enough sugar to suit your own taste. And there you are, whipped Carnation, a superb topping for desserts at only 1/3 the cost of whipping cream. Carnation, the milk that whips.
Thank you, miss. Yes, sir. I'd like to look at your greeting cards. Well, I'll show you our display counter, and you can pick one out for yourself.
Say, Blanche. They're showing our first television show of the season tonight, so why don't you and Harry come over to our house and watch it with us?
Well, I'm afraid George may not like it.
Oh, Blanche, George seems to like our show better than anybody else.
Oh, I don't mean that.
In fact, I've seen him laughing at our show when you and Harry were yawning.
If you're talking about last week, we hadn't had much sleep the night before.
Say, Blanche, you know, I think it would be nice to have a party tonight. You know, it would be a lot more fun to watch the show if all our friends were there to tell us how much they like it.
Well, if George wants to know what people think of the show, you don't invite friends, you invite strangers.
Say, that's a wonderful idea. Oh, you're so clever.
I'll be with you just a minute, ma'am. Now then, let's see. Which one of you ladies came in first?
I did, but you can wait on her first.
Oh, no, if you came in first, I'll take care of you first.
All right. But you'll make less money that way, because I didn't come in here to buy anything, and she did.
Well, we came in together.
Yes, I see.
My husband would like a package of this ledger paper. Do you have it exactly like the sample?
Well, our stationery section's right over here.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, wait a minute, mister. What are you doing tonight?
Tonight?
Yes, I'm giving a television party. Would you like to come?
Well, I hardly know what to say. We don't know each other.
Well, that's perfect. You know, Blanche gave me a wonderful idea. I'm only inviting strangers. Here's my address.
Strangers?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm afraid I couldn't go. You see, I'm short of help. My assistant's uncle died, and he went to Las Vegas.
Oh, wait a minute. You know, this is no time for him to go. He'll miss his own funeral.
No, I mean, my assistant went to Las Vegas.
Well, he'll miss the funeral, too.
Mrs. George Burns.
Oh, there's the woman I don't know.
Oh, Mrs. Burns, yes, I'd like very much to come.
Oh, good. And if your assistant and his uncle get back in time, bring him along. Hello?
Hello?
Why don't you come to my party at 8 o'clock tonight? Oh, here's my address.
Party?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think I've ever met you.
You haven't.
Well, then I wouldn't know anyone there.
Oh, well, that's all right. Neither will anybody else.
Mrs. George Burns. Oh, you're Gracie Allen. Oh, well, I certainly will come. My husband and I watch you every week. He always says, how can any woman be that stupid?
Oh, well, don't feel bad. Husbands are all alike. You know, sometimes my husband says the same thing to me. don't even know what she's laughing at. You don't either. Well, are we ready to go?
As soon as Miss Esmond wraps my package.
Oh, wait a minute. I want to talk to that man.
Who is he?
Well, I don't know. I'll introduce him to you tonight.
Hello.
Hello.
Oh, I want you to come to my house to a television party tonight at 8 o'clock. Oh, when that funeral is over in Las Vegas, don't forget to bring them.
No, I won't.
What was that?
Oh, Blanche, I don't know how to thank you for that idea you suggested. It's wonderful.
I suggested something?
Well, to invite strangers to our television party tonight. And, you know, everybody I've invited so far is accepted.
Oh, no, honey. I didn't mean that. That wasn't my idea.
Oh, yes, it was. Aw, you're too modest. Wait till George hears about it.
But, Gracie,
Oh, there's another stranger. Miss!
Oh, no. Gracie!
In a few hours, I'm going to watch our first television show of the new season. If you get a chance, I hope you'll watch it, too. You know, it's just like an opening night, and I'm really worried. You see, in show business, they say that all actors who have talent get nervous on opening nights. That's why I'm worried. Years ago, when I did a single in vaudeville, I never got nervous on opening nights. I never even got nervous on closing nights. Come to think of it, they were usually the same night. I invited 2 newspapermen over to watch our show tonight. Jack Hellman of Variety and Leo Guild of The Hollywood Reporter, and they're very important men. If they give you good notice, it carries a lot of weight. And it always hands me a laugh, the way other actors on opening night wine them and dine them and buy them all kinds of presents just to get on the right side of them, but not me. I do that every time I see them. You know, critics are not always right. When Jack Benny first went into the radio business, about 25 years ago, a certain critic in New York named Hemmendinger gave him a very bad notice. He said a man with so little talent would be forgotten in 1 year. But he was wrong. They forgot Hemmendinger in about 6 months. You know, last year we invited the Mortons over to watch our opening show. And Blanche had an unusual kind of hay fever. She only sneezed during my monologue. And 20 minutes later, when I sang my song, her husband started to say Gesundheit. There were so many disturbances, I couldn't tell whether the show was good or bad. So the next day, I went all over town asking people how they liked it. I asked the man who runs the filling station if he and his wife saw our show last night. He said, I'm afraid not. Since we got a television set, my wife and I don't go out much anymore. On my way to the Friars Club, I met a friend of mine, Bonnie Dare, and I says, Bonnie, did you see our show last night? He says, yes. I said, how'd you like it? He said, oh boy, and kept walking. I still don't know whether it's oh boy good or oh boy bad. Well, I better get things ready for Hellman and Guild. Our show should be going on at about, There it is. I guess I have got talent. See, I am nervous.
What's the favor you want to ask? Well, our first show of the new season goes tonight. Could I come over here and watch it with you?
Well, Harry, won't you hear it over at George's? I assumed we'd all be invited as usual.
Hadn't you heard about that?
I know, what?
Oh, well, this year, George has invited the television editors of Variety and Reporter over to watch the show with him and nobody else.
Oh, I see. Doing a little apple polishing so he'll get a good notice, huh?
Shame on him. George wouldn't stoop to a thing like that. Just because he's sending a limousine to pick them up and bought them $1.50 cigars and some fine French cognac doesn't mean he has an ulterior motive. He'd do the same thing for anybody else who'd write him a good notice.
Hey, Blanche is home. Well, then, Harry, by all means, come over here. Well, I can understand why George doesn't want to be disturbed.
I don't know what's the matter with me. I have to say something like strangers. I mean,
Blanche.
I can't come up.
Are you sure you're well?
Oh, yes. Hello, Mr. Gonfeld.
Hi.
Oh, what a day I've had.
Gracie went shopping with me, and she was in great form. Everywhere we went, every time she met a stranger, she invited them to come over to her house tonight. She's giving a television party.
Are you kidding?
Oh, there won't be so many. Only the people we met in 3 stores and on the bus coming home.
Oh, no, I got to talk to Gracie and stop that. George will blow his top.
He certainly will.
Yeah, you know, George is having 2 newspapermen over to the house tonight, and he doesn't want anybody to disturb them.
Oh, and I feel responsible. Golly, I hope Mr. Bonzell can straighten it out.
Well, I'm not really interested. Did you get my ledger paper?
Well, of course.
What's this?
Oh, that's a pound of my favorite coconut bonbons. You like them, too.
Only when I can't get shredded wheat dipped in mucilage. Is this the ledger paper?
No. That's a pair of black and white striped pajamas I bought at the May Company. I had the same kind 5 years ago, remember?
Yeah, so do all the neighbors. For a long time, they thought I was living with a zebra. I can't find any ledger paper in here.
Oh, you men are so helpless. You never can find anything. I'll get it. How do you like that stupid clerk? He let me walk out and forget the paper.
But you didn't forget the bonbons or the striped pajamas.
Well, no.
Obviously, your motto is, if you can't eat it or wear it, forget it.
Now,
If your head was not attached to your spinal column, you'd forget that, too. Now, you know I needed that ledger paper to complete an audit for the Perkins Bearing Company. And yet you fail in the performance of this one simple task. You think of nobody but yourself. You are utterly and completely inconsiderate. And furthermore, You're the sweetest little zebra I was ever married to.
Hi, Gracie.
Hello, Harry.
Say, Mrs. Martin was just...
Harry, I'm glad you came. I wanted to invite you to our television party tonight.
Well, that's what I wanted to...
Oh, you know, dozens of people are coming over, so I'm fixing the sandwiches now. Oh, would you mind getting me the Swiss cheese out of the refrigerator?
Yeah. Well, look, Gracie, about this party, there's something you ought to know. George is invited... Say, Gracie... What is this?
It's for the party. I wrapped all the ice cubes in cotton.
What'd you do that for?
Well, so when I put them in the drinks, they won't tinkle. See, I don't want any noise during the show.
You know, that's a very good idea. But, Gracie, about this party, I think I ought to explain. Gracie, now I know that for your party tonight, you want the holes in the bread to match the holes in the Swiss cheese. But why?
Well, so the people can see where they are. You know, it's very disappointing to bite down onto a hole.
I never thought of that.
And besides, it's a wonderful sandwich for a television party. You can eat it and watch the show at the same time.
Gracie, did you know that George had invited Jack Hellman of Variety and Leo Guild from the Reporter over here tonight?
Oh, wonderful.
No.
Huh?
No. I'm sure George wouldn't want them here with that bunch of people you invited.
Well, they're very nice people.
Well, I'm sure they are, but I know George is going to be upset because they just won't fit in with Hellman and Guild. You ought to get in touch with them and tell them not to come.
Oh. Well, I'm glad you told me before it was too late. I'll take care of it right away.
It's a good idea.
Is this Jack Hellman of Variety?
Yes.
Well, this is Gracie Allen. I'm sorry, but George has decided he doesn't want you to come over and see our show tonight.
Why not?
Well, we're having some nice people over, and George doesn't think you fit in. Goodbye. Now, Leo Guild.
Gracie does all right. You know, the last party she had a wonderful buffet. And with that delicious carnation cheese sauce that she has the recipe for, you know. It's a very simple recipe. Of course, with Gracie, it has to be. but you really ought to try it. Well, here's how you make it. Carnation 3-minute cheese sauce. The kitchen-tested way. First of all, pour 1 large can of Carnation evaporated milk into saucepan. Notice, by the way, that Carnation pours like cream. That's because it's more than double rich. Next step, add 1/2 teaspoon salt and heat until small bubbles appear around the edge of the pan and simmer to just below boiling point. Now, while you're waiting for the milk to heat, grate 1 cupful, that's 4 ounces, of processed type American cheese. Add this to your heated milk and stir until the cheese is melted. There now, could anything be easier than that? And just look at the smooth consistency of this cheese sauce. It's delicious, too, thanks to the wonderful cooking qualities of Carnation evaporated milk. And what a difference you'll find when you try Carnation 3-minute cheese sauce on cooked vegetables, for example, in casseroles and ever so many dishes. With no other form of milk can you get such outstanding results. Remember Carnation evaporated milk for richer, smoother, quicker cheese sauce.
Notice that I'm wearing a glove, and you probably wonder why. I bought some $1.50 cigars for those 2 newspaper men, and I'm smoking one, and I don't want to bruise it. 10 cents worth. Wonder who Gracie's waving to. Oh, Mr. Beasley, our postman. She knows exactly when he's going to get here. Oh, as usual, he's telling her that there's no mail, but there is. See, what did I tell you? He just didn't want to talk to her. Caught again. He's been delivering our mail for 14 years. He's tried that bit at least once a month, and he's yet to get away with it. That boy is not too smart.
Mr. Beasley.
Believe me, Mrs. Burns, I'd rather stop at your house than any other place on my route.
You're just saying that, Mr. Beasley.
No, I mean it. Only last night I was telling my wife about it. And do you know what she said?
No, what?
She said, one thing about the Burnses, they don't have a vicious dog that runs out and bites you and tears your pants leg the way the Johnson's dog, Laddie, does.
Who said that?
My wife did.
Oh, why would you say a thing like that?
Well, because you don't have a vicious dog that bites me the way the Johnsons do.
Well, you tell your wife we'll get one that'll bite you just as often as the Johnsons bite you.
Okay, I'll tell her.
Oh, by the way, can you and Mrs. Beasley come to our television party tonight?
Oh, thank you very much, Mrs. Burns. We'd love to come.
Of course, I'm only inviting strangers.
Mrs. Burns, my wife and I aren't strangers.
But you were before you met each other.
Well, true.
See, incidentally, how did they happen to name your wife Laddie?
Laddie? Oh, Laddie is the name of the Johnson's collie.
Oh, well, maybe you better not tell your wife that. It might make her feel silly to know that she was named after a dog.
Oh, excuse me, Mrs. Burns, but your phone is ringing.
Well, that's not your fault. It does that whenever anybody calls us.
Goodbye.
Who's on the phone, dear?
Jack Hellman. I understand you're giving a television party tonight, and you phoned him and Leo Guild and told them that I didn't want him to come.
Oh, yes, well, Harry Von Zell said that that's what you wanted.
That must have been a misunderstanding.
Well, naturally, Harry Von Zell never gets anything right.
Naturally. Anyway, they're coming. I put the television set in the living room because I don't want Hellman and Gill disturbed. So give me the names of these people you invited. I'll phone them and tell them to stay home.
All right. Well, now let me see. First there was Mrs. Brown. Oh, you'll love her.
Mrs. Brown, she was first.
Well, no, she wasn't exactly first. She was about the 25th. But she was the first stranger I invited on the bus.
A stranger?
Yes. Well, of course, she's not exactly a stranger because I met her, so I really know her much better than the strangers I haven't met.
let's get on with this list so I can call these people and tell them not to come.
All right, put Charlie Gibson down. I met him on the bus, too.
Charlie Gibson.
Well, I gave him one of my cards, but he wasn't sure he could be here. Oh, he was terribly disappointed. He said he wants to buy a new automobile, but his wife is expecting a baby any minute, and she said they can't afford it and talked him out of it.
Well, that would disappoint him.
Yes, he says he's even willing to settle for a second-hand one that's gone about 20,000 miles. So I said, well, I don't blame your wife. Any baby that's gone that far would probably be born with blisters on its feet.
Well, if you said that to Charlie, I don't think he'll be here. Who else?
Frank Shortnecker.
Frank Shortnecker. With 2 Ks?
No, he's coming alone.
Serves me right.
So if a round-faced young man comes to the door with the ace of spades in his hand, that's Frank Shortnecker.
With the ace of spades?
Oh, well, I ran out of calling cards, but it was fortunate I had a gin rummy deck in my purse.
Did you invite?
Let's see. Oh, you'll love the 3 of diamonds. That's Mrs. Klein. And the 7 of clubs is Mr. Cunningham, and he's married to the Jack of Hearts. And then there was...
Gracie, how can I get in touch with these people?
Well, do what I did. Go to Martindale's bookstore with Blanche and then get on the bus.
Gracie, I don't know what they look like. I couldn't tell one from the other.
Oh, George, if you don't know the difference between Blanche Morton and a great big bus, you ought to have your eyes examined.
The Mortons and Von Zell are all upset. They don't know that I found out that all those strangers are coming. They're trying to figure a way to help Gracie, and after they help Gracie, somebody will have to help them. That must be the limousine with Hellman and Guild. Well, it only cost me $25, so they'll think I'm a big shot. Believe me, money isn't everything. I've got an idea. As long as the Mortons and Von Zell and all those people are coming over to my house to watch the television show, I'll take those newspaper men over to the Morton house.
Wait, I've got it. George doesn't need to be disturbed. I know all the people that Gracie invited. So we'll go over and stand in front of the Burns house, and when the people come, we'll send them over to our house.
It's a wonderful idea. Hey!
Gracie, Hellman and Guild are waiting to meet you in the living room. But before you go downstairs, I want to give you some instructions.
George, I don't need any instructions. I know how to get into the living room. You go through the door, into the hall, you turn left, and down the steps,
I don't mean that. I mean about the way to handle them. They're very important men, and everybody in Hollywood knows them. So if we want to get a good review, you got to get on the right side of them.
All right.
You know, flatter them, tell them you like them, tell them how much you enjoy reading their papers. Do you understand?
George, who do you think you're talking to? Didn't I know where the living room was?
Here she is. Gracie, this is Jack Hellman of Variety and Leo Gill of The Reporter.
Oh, George, you don't have to tell me who these important men are. Everybody in Hollywood knows them. Which is which?
Gracie, maybe we'd better introduce ourselves.
Oh, I wish you would. And do you mind if I listen? Because I'd like to know who you are, too.
Gracie, the short one is Hellman and the tall one is Guild.
Oh. George said we'd get a good review if I can get on the right side of you.
Oh, you did?
Gracie's just having a little fun. She thinks you guys are great. In fact, she reads everything you write in the Variety and the Reporter.
Oh, sure. I think the Variety is wonderful, Mr. Guild.
I'm on the Reporter.
The Reporter? Well, that's my favorite paper. And you're on?
Variety.
That's my favorite paper.
You just said the Reporter was your favorite.
Well, actually, I never read either one of them, so it doesn't matter what I
think. Look, Gracie, we're going over to the Morton house to watch our television show, and we want to get there before your friends get here. So will you fix us some drinks and sandwiches?
Oh, sure.
That way, gentlemen. Well, right after the fight, you'll see our show.
Right in that room there, and take your chairs with you.
Hey, what's going on?
We came to a television party.
People outside said it was in here.
Come on, fellas, let's go to my house.
Fletch, what's this?
Well, Gracie, we brought the television party over here.
Oh, no. George said he was taking the 2 newspaper men and coming over here and watch the show. So all these people have to go back to my house.
Well, I'm sorry, everybody. Bring your chairs and follow me. That's right. All right, come on in, everybody. Put your chairs down.
Sorry, fellas. This is murder. But there's a little bar around the corner where we can see our show.
You know, George, I don't know how funny your show's going to be tonight, but it'll never top this situation. You ought to put this on television.
Don't do it, George. Nobody'd ever believe it.
Well, how do you like the show so far?
Oh, boy.
And how?
Carnation Evaporated Milk will bring George and Gracie back in just a moment. And remember, next week, George and Gracie will be brought to you by B.F. Goodrich. Here's a dramatic demonstration at Chicago's Museum of Science and Industry. This heavy guillotine blade slams down on a B.F. Goodrich tubeless tire, demonstrating the ability of these tires to resist bruises and breaks such as they might suffer from hitting chuck holes and rocks at high speeds. B.F. Goodrich now builds this protection into 2 types of tubeless tires. Just last week, B.F. Goodrich announced this new Safety Liner tubeless tire that will be on many of the new model cars. The Safety Liner is the safety mate of the famed B.F. Goodrich Lifesaver tubeless tire. Get tubeless tires backed by 6 years of use and proof at your B.F. Goodrich retailers. His address is in the yellow pages under Tires. And now, Carnation's contented couple, George and Gracie.
Thank you very much. Well, Gracie, how did all your friends like our television show?
Well, everyone who came loved it, but the 5 and 6 of diamonds didn't show up.
Maybe they got lost in the shuffle.
Say good night, George.
Good night.
It's carnation time when you're cooking too. It's carnation time and baby feeding time. The milk from contented cows for you. Carnation.
Appearing on tonight's show were Rolf Sedan as Mr. Beasley, Don Curtis as Leo Guild, Ross Elliott as Jack Hellman, William Forrest as Man with the Greeting Cards, Irene Tedrow as the woman at the book counter, Paul Keast as the Ace of Spades, and King Donovan as the bookstore clerk. This is Harry Von Zell saying good night for Carnation. This program has been seen in full color on color receivers and in black and white on regular black and white receivers.
The Rocky Nell Show.
The makers of Clipper Craft Clothes for Men and 924 leading retail stores from coast to coast present the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Our stories are based upon the character of Sherlock Holmes, created by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, and the dramatizations are by Edith Meiser. And now for our weekly visit to the familiar firelit study of our old friend, Dr. Watson. We open the door and find the good doctor on his hands and knees rummaging through a travel-worn and battered tin dispatch box. Great Caesar's ghost, don't tell me that's the one, the famous box containing the records of Sherlock Holmes' unpublished cases.
It is indeed, Mr. Harris, it is indeed.
But I thought that was supposed to be kept deep in the vaults of the Bank of Cox and Company of Charing Cross.
Oh, not during the war, it wasn't, thank heaven. The bank was hit twice, you may remember. Yes, at the very beginning of the late unpleasantness, the government evacuated this box, along with several other notable British documents, such as certain Shakespeare folios, to a safe place in the country.
Oh, I see. And they've just been returned to you now? Why the delay, Doctor?
Would you believe it? They told me these papers were too valuable to be in private ownership. They claim they belong in the British Museum. I told them they could put these records in the British Museum when Holmes is safely buried in Westminster Abbey.
A great many years from now, let's hope.
Amen. Well, now, yes, I've been going over these files to see if I couldn't find our subject for tonight's story. Yes, I think I can do no better than relate this one. The one to which Holmes invariably referred as the affair of the politician, the lighthouse, and the trained cormorant. But good heavens, where are my manners? Here you are, panting to say a few well-chosen words on behalf of those very generous gentlemen, our sponsors. Go ahead, Mr. Harris, go ahead.
With pleasure, Dr. Watson. And my story today is very simple, but very important. It's a tale of the greatest values in clothes the American public has ever seen. Values that have rhyme and reason behind them, that are the result of a carefully laid out plan. Manufacturing ingenuity and a really great distribution idea make it possible for you to buy superlatively fine Clippercraft clothes at astonishingly low prices. Yes, and right in your own local independent store where friendly attention is traditionally yours. Through the Clippercraft plan, 924 leading stores across America have concentrated their buying power, bringing you tremendous savings in manufacturing and distribution costs. Take a look at Clippercraft's expensive-looking suits at only $35 and $40, with a few deluxe models at $43.75. And Clippercraft top coats and overcoats, too, at only $30 to $40. And sport jackets at only $24. You don't have to be a Sherlock Holmes to solve your clothes problem this fall. Simply compare Clippercraft with clothes selling for many dollars more. And now to get back to the politician, the lighthouse, and the trained cormorant. What exactly is a cormorant, Dr. Watson?
A largish bird, Mr. Harris, that is inordinately fond of fish, which it dives into the water to catch. The word cormorant is a French derivation. Cor meaning raven, and marin meaning marine.
Oh, yes, the raven of the sea. Sounds vaguely sinister, Dr. Watson.
It was, Mr. Harris, it was indeed. This particular cormorant, whose name was Tika, was directly responsible for the death of the disreputable old baggage who, Oh, there I go, getting ahead of myself again. To begin at the beginning, it was a cold, wet November night. A Saturday night, to be exact. Holmes, overcome with the restless energy which sometimes burned inside him like a seething volcano, had insisted on a visit to the Port of London, the Chinese section of it that is so often referred to in tones of awe and terror as Limehouse. We had just turned off West India Dock Road. Against the sky rose Limehouse Church, the one thing of beauty in a sordid landscape. Yellow and brown men pattered by on slippered feet. Strange voices, whispering in strange tongues, crept out of dark corners. The air was heavy with the stench of betel nuts, shandu, and fried fish. A clinging mist crept in off the river. In the channel, a foghorn wailed like a lost soul. Holmes, what's the point of all this meandering? First up one dilapidated alley, then down the next. I'm frozen to the bone. Let's get home before someone slits our throats from behind.
A nice trick if it can be done, Watson. No, a stab in the back, or perhaps a bit of thuggy with a fine silken cord would be more in keeping with this neighborhood.
What's the good of all this prowling about?
But, Watson, we promised Mrs. Hudson we'd bring her some tea. Some Suey Sen in little 2-ounce packets at 7p each. A shy little tea to fill the hour of 4 to 5 with delicate scents and dreams. The slop she's been giving us lately is enough to rot the lining of one's stomach.
Well, then, let's buy the stuff and go home. That is, if you can remember where the shop is.
It's just across the crazy bridge up ahead there that leads to the Isle of Dogs. A small spice shop run by my good friend Sam Ling Lee.
Well, then, let's go there and get it over with.
Impatience, Watson, is the curse of our Western civilization. Always in a hurry. Never taking time to taste, to savor, really to observe life.
Oh, what is there worth observing in this God-forsaken district, I'd like to know?
Quick, Watson, duck into the doorway.
Je ne peux pas payer.
You dirty little thief! I'll fix you!
Good Lord, Holmes, that man was chasing her with a stiletto. After them down the next alley.
Too late, Watson.
Great Scott, Holmes. Aren't you going to do something?
What is there to do, Watson? That poor, tortured soul. She's better off dead.
Holmes, you are a cold-blooded fish. At least we could try to catch the man who stabbed her.
That is a job for the official police. We must leave something for them to do, you know. Incidents like this occur every day in Limehouse. No, the individual I'd like to bring to justice is the real murderer in this and 100 other cases.
Who's that?
The purveyor of little white packages like the one that poor frantic derelict clutched so tightly in her hand. The chief of the outfit which peddles death and decay in the form of exotic dreams.
You know who he is?
Naturally. The annoying part of the situation is that I've been completely unable to persuade any of his victims to testify against him. They're all so tragically dependent on him for his filthy wares. Oh, but enough of that. What we've just witnessed is commonplace. But here comes something I think you'll admit is rather unusual, even in Limehouse.
Yes, what do you mean?
Look there, across the street, Watson. Ever see a man take a bird for a walk? It's Paru, the crippled Lascar, taking Tika for his nightly outing. They're coming down the steps of the house across the way.
They're crossing the street. That's a curious-looking bird. It waddles like a duck, but its beak is different. Its neck is almost as long as a swan's.
That, Watson, is a cormorant, a very intelligent biped. In many tropical countries, the natives train them to catch fish.
Do not fear, my beautiful Tika. The men will not harm you. Paru will protect his Tika. Careful. Here the stones are sharp.
Well, I'll be...
Undoubtedly, Watson. Paru couldn't be more attached to Tika if he were his own son.
But did you see the bird's eyes? They shone yellow in the light of the street lamp like a cat's.
Yes, many of the natives hereabouts are afraid of the bird. They say he has the evil eye. Perhaps that's why Paru and Tika are considered star boarders at the lighthouse across the way.
The lighthouse?
It's the name of the most notorious lodging house in all of Limehouse. Chinese, Lascars, and East Indians sleep there, 10 and 12 to a room on the bare floors or on mildewed mattresses. Tika and Paru sleep curled up in a closet on the top floor. At least they have privacy.
Charming place. Why in heaven's name don't the authorities clean it out?
Authority around here, Watson, is Harry Hawkins, called Handsome Harry by the natives because he's so definitely the opposite. Mr. Hawkins not only owns most of the houses in this area, he's councilman for this district.
Yes, but surely it's not good business to let your property go to rack and ruin like that place across the way.
The lighthouse, Watson, is run by a vicious old reprobate who's known as Mother Fishface, partly because she has no teeth and a cold and fishy eye, and partly because she runs a fish house in the kitchen under the steps, where she dispenses decayed fish and chips at 2p a portion to the poor starving wretches who inhabit the rooms upstairs. Mother Fishface is the only one who dares talk back to Mr. Hawkins. She's the only one who dares to be late with her rent. In fact, it's rumored that she has something on the old boy, and he's definitely afraid of her.
Knows where the body's buried, eh, Holmes?
Or how he procures the opium and hashish he undoubtedly deals in. I suspect most of her boarders are smugglers of the vile stuff.
So we came down here for the purpose of buying tea for Mrs. Hudson, and now we suddenly seem to be interested in a dope-running outfit. Holmes, you don't fool me for a moment.
5 years' association with Sherlock Holmes seems to have sharpened your powers of observation, my dear Watson.
Well,
Quiet, Watson. Quick. Slip behind this wall. Here comes Mr. Hawkins on his weekly collection rounds.
Open up there. Saturday night. Rent's due.
Here's your money, Mr. Hawkins. Blast you. Charming fellow, Mr. Hawkins.
Quiet, Watson. He's about to knock on the kitchen door opposite. Let's see what happens at the lighthouse.
Hi there, Mother. It's me, Answer Mary, come to pay you a visit.
What do you want, you old fool?
What would I want, dearie? It's Saturday night, rent night. You're a week behind now.
Supposing I am. You ain't starving. You can wait, can't you?
No, old girl, you know I wouldn't press me old sweetheart. Here, look, I brought you a present. A fine bottle of gin.
What's wrong with it? Is it poisoned?
Oh, have your little joke, won't you, dearie?
No, I don't think you'd do a thing like that, Harry. The day they find me murdered, that's the day you'll wish you'd never been born.
How you do run on. If anything was to happen to you, you know it'd break me heart.
Wouldn't it just? Here comes that cripple and his bleeding bird. It's always sneaking into me door and making away with a fish.
Them birds has a weakness for fish.
Well, if he don't keep out of my kitchen, it'll be the weakness that finishes him. Hey, you there, Peru.
Yes, Madam Fishface.
Keep your dirty bird out of my kitchen, and don't you call me madam.
My Tika is not as dirty as your kitchen. And as for your fish, I would not feed it to a swine, much less my beautiful Tika.
There he goes, sticking his head in the door. Here, get out, you.
Stop!
Go on.
Stop! Do not raise that broom to my Tika.
Not raise the broom, is it? Listen to me, you slimy heathen. That bird comes into my kitchen once more and I'll wring his bleeding neck.
You listen to me, Madam Fishface, and listen well. You touch one feather of Tika's beautiful neck, and I will kill you. I will kill you dead.
Here, now, that's enough. I'll have no one threatening Mother Fishface.
You heard what he said. You heard him. There, out he goes, out of my house. Let him sleep in the streets. Let him sleep in the gutter with his dirty bird.
No, Mother, don't you get your danded up. Go on in and drink your bottle. That's a good girl. It's Saturday night, remember? You got a little spree coming to you.
I know what I'm doing. No one has to tell me.
Come, Tika. We do not enter her filthy premises again. We go sleep in the churchyard. It is warmer than Madam Fishface's heart.
Well, that little commotion seems to have resolved itself, Mr. Holmes?
I wonder. At any rate, the fog's lifted a bit. We'd better get around to Sam Lee's place before he shuts up his shop. I could do with a dish of hot tea.
A dish? It'd take a gallon to warm me up.
Well, come along, then. It's no good loitering at Mother Fishface's door any longer, Mr. Hawkins. I fancy she and her bottle are locked in for the weekend.
Oh, and Braid. Oh, it's you. And what is the eminent Mr. Sherlock Holmes snooping around here for, eh?
Snooping? My dear Mr. Hawkins, you underrate me.
Dr. Watson and I were merely enjoying the local colour. You have such lurid local colour in this district, haven't you? Delicious. The true Lapsang Souchang. Smoky, with a suggestion of the true tarred rope flavour.
Not bad. Could do with a spot of rum in it, though.
Typically British reaction, Watson. The Englishman's always insulting his palate and desecrating his tea with surpluses. Cream, milk, rum, even nasty little pieces of lemon. At any rate, the libation served its purpose. It's thawed you out.
I've drunk so much tea, I'm awash. My back teeth are practically floating.
But mind, you look less blue around the gills.
Oh, I wish you wouldn't use that expression, Holmes. Brings back that horrible old woman's face. I say, she did look like a fish, you know, a dead fish. Hello. Look out of the window. Here's Handsome Harry running down the street.
Yes, seems to be headed in this direction. Yes, here he comes.
Oh, Mr. Holmes. Oh, thanks. Thank heavens you're here. And your friend, too. I think you said he was a doctor.
Yes, I'm a medical man. What seems to be the trouble, Mr. Hawkins?
You better come right away. She'll be needing you, no mistake.
Who'll be needing whom? What's happened?
It's Mother Fishface. After I'd finished my collections, I went back to tell her about the plumbers coming in on Monday. But the door was locked, and she wouldn't answer.
Probably the result of too rapid absorption of the bottle you left behind.
Oh, you're right here. Not answering the door wouldn't upset me most times. Only tonight there's a great smell of gas leaking out around it.
Gas? Hurry, Watson. Let's hope we're not too late.
Here we are. 2 steps down. Careful. Top one's loose.
Smell of gas. Very pronounced here, Holmes.
Quite. Door locked.
Shall I break it down?
Windows quicker. Stand back. I'll use this loose brick.
Phew, what a stench. Stale fish and gas.
Give it a chance to clear for a moment.
I say, there she is, Holmes. You can see her lying there behind the table. But what's that draped across her leg like a snake?
It's not a snake, Watson. It's Tika's neck. The bird is doubtless lying beside her, hidden by the body.
Tika!
Come on, over the sill we go.
Tika! Did someone see Tika? I look everywhere for him. I am asleep on a grave, and Tika sits on the tombstone. When I wake up, he's gone.
He's in there, Paru. I'm afraid we've come too late.
Tika! My beautiful Tika! She has destroyed him.
All right, come in, all of you.
I kill her. I slit her throat.
Paru, put away that knife. And take the bird outside. Try artificial respiration. Don't waste any time. Watson, you look out for the old woman.
My pretty, my beautiful Tika.
Here, I better turn off this here gas jet on the stove. It's wide open.
Don't touch it. But confound it, did you have to do that?
Well, you didn't want to asphyxiate a lot of us, did you?
No. But I did want to examine that handle for fingerprints.
It's no go, Holmes. I can't bring her round. She's turning cold.
Yes, gas poisoning. That's what finished her. Unusually florid face. Gas poisoning complicated by cerebral thrombosis brought on by alcohol and high blood pressure.
Yes, I noticed the uneven dilation of her pupils.
Yes.
Poor old dear. One never knows, eh, Mr. Holmes? Who'd have thought the next time I saw her she'd be lying there like that, cold as a mackerel?
But if she wanted to commit suicide, Mr. Hawkins, why was only one gas jet open? Why not turn on the lot, eh, Holmes?
I doubt very much if it was suicide, Watson.
You don't mean it's murder? But the door was locked. No one could have got in.
Well, that's right, Mr. Holmes. She never gave no one the key. It must have been accidental. Or at least that's what it was supposed to look like.
What brings you to that fascinating conclusion, Mr. Hawkins?
It was that bird what did it, mark my words. Time and again he knocked that gas jet open. Always old Mother Fishface would scream at him and shut it off. Only tonight, like as not, she was too drunk to notice.
Drunk from the gin you brought her?
I always brought her a bottle of gin on Saturday nights. It was that dirty Lascar did it. You heard him say he'd kill her. He knew she'd be drunk, and he shoved his bird in here. He did it, knowing he'd turn on the gas, reaching for a fish frying on the stove.
Yes, there was a fish on the stove. But it was not frying because there's no frying pan. If there had been, the gas would have been lit, and there'd have been no chance for it to escape and fill the room. Yes, there was a fish on the stove, carefully draped across this handle. You'll notice that it's still greasy and smells rather strongly of mackerel. These scratches, I imagine, were caused by the bird's beak as he snatched at the fish, thereby pushing the handle and opening the jet.
Oh, that's what I said. That dirty heathen pushed his scrawny old bird in here, knowing Mother Fishface was lying helpless drunk with no way of protecting herself.
And how did he manage to push the bird in here with all the doors and windows locked?
Oh, I see what you mean. And it couldn't have been murder. It was accidental, like. The bird flew himself in.
And how did he manage to do that?
Oh, through that little trapdoor. Up there beside the window. It's got a little swinging hinge to it. So's the fish peddler could deliver fish through it when Mother Fishface wasn't home. That blinking bird, he flew up there, he did, shoved open the trap, and flew down into the room. What happened next was just like you deduced it, Mr. Holmes. It must have been. Poor old Mother Fishface, murdered accidental by a bird.
Very interesting theory, Mr. Hawkins, but unfortunately it does not jibe with the facts.
Yes, what do you mean, Holmes?
Simply this, Watson. The bird couldn't have flown in because it so happens that this particular member of the feathered tribe is an Anopterum harrisi, or Harris cormorant, which occurs only on the Galapagos Islands. It is entirely flightless.
You mean it can't fly?
Not any farther than Dr. Watson.
But it did get in here somehow, Holmes. You'll have to admit that.
Quite. The cormorant was introduced into this kitchen by the only person, other than old Mother Fishface, who had the key to that door.
Who's that?
You, Mr. Hawkins, the landlord.
Rubbish. Why should I be wanting to kill the old girl? She was my best tenant.
You killed her because you suspected she was going to split to the port authorities. You got wind of the fact they'd sent me down here to get her story.
You can't prove it. You can't prove a blasted thing. Supposing you have got my fingerprints in that gas jet. Dr. Watson here is witness to the fact that he saw me turn it off.
Is that so, Holmes?
Yeah, but you'll not find my fingerprints in the lock or in the doorknob, neither.
I wondered why they were wiped clean. You were here earlier this evening. Your fingerprints should have been on the doorknob.
Well, they ain't now. You can't convict me on that.
What about the odor of fish that clings to your hands? Too bad you chose mackerel to lure Tika. Such a smelly fish. Furthermore, the notes on the papers which Watson discovered inside the woman's bodice
But Holmes,
will convict you of conducting a despicable and entirely illegal trade in opium and other... Why, Mr. Hawkins, where are you going?
Oh, I'm getting out. I won't get me. Now that the tech's going to lay his hands on me.
Holmes, why didn't you stop him?
He'll be stopped, never fear. The authorities have had the place surrounded ever since we left the tea house. Sam Lee is my go-between. Or didn't you guess?
You know dashed well I didn't. Furthermore, I don't know what you're talking about when you mention the papers I found in Mother Fishface's bodice. There weren't any papers.
I know, Watson. Bluff. Pure bluff. The important thing is Hawkins thinks we've found those papers. It's remarkable how talkative the average criminal becomes once he thinks the jig's up. The port authorities should have no trouble in finding out all they want to know. Yes, at last, the chief of this dope smuggling ring and the cause of untold human misery will be safely behind bars.
Sir Holmes, did you hear that?
Yes, it's Tika. I thought Paru might be able to bring him round. You see, he didn't have as much alcohol in his system as Mother Fishface. Let that be a lesson to you, Watson.
You go to blazes.
It's a problem for the average family these days. Practically every necessity costs more, and most family budgets are not elastic. But there's one thing a man can buy today that gives him the most for his money he's ever known. Yes, even these days. Without the sacrifice of quality, you can buy really fine Clippercraft clothes for far less than ordinary clothes cost elsewhere. And in your own local independent store, where you get friendly personal attention. It's all made possible by the Clippercraft plan, concentrating the buying power of 924 leading stores from coast to coast. Stores you can trust. Stores where Clippercraft quality is still sold at amazingly low prices. Even today, Clippercraft suits are only $35 and $40, with a few special numbers at $43.75. Even today, top coats and overcoats are only $30 to $40, and sport jackets but $24. Selling beautifully tailored, expensive clothes, inexpensive in price, at the nation's finest independent stores, is the great big idea behind the Clippercraft plan. That's why men who know insist on Clippercraft clothes. So be sure to visit the Clippercraft store in your city.
The leading stores in the metropolitan area that bring you Clippercraft clothes are Saks 34th, Broadway at 34th Street, Manhattan, Abraham and Straus, Brooklyn, the Boulevard Men's Shop, Kresge, Newark, New Jersey, and the B&B Clothes Shop, 16408 Jamaica Avenue, Jamaica. These great, courteous, and friendly stores are proud to add their names to that of Clippercraft in the label of your suit, top coat, sports jacket, and overcoat.
Now, Dr. Watson, did they succeed in convicting the handsome Mr. Harry Hawkins?
They did indeed, Mr. Harris. They did indeed. Mr. Hawkins spilled the beans, as you say, with very little persuasion. As a matter of fact, Mother Fishface did have quite a few incriminating records tucked away carefully, which we subsequently found.
Hidden in an old teapot or the family flour barrel, no doubt.
Hidden away in a vault in the bank in Threadneedle Street, together with a very handsome collection of English banknotes.
Thrifty old gal. Who inherited the money, Doctor?
Holmes saw to it that the money went to the Limehouse Mission for Stranded Seamen. He also arranged for Peru to spend his declining years there. He even managed to wangle a permission for him to keep Tika perched on the foot of his bed.
I guess there's nothing that can't be done if Sherlock Holmes sets his mind to it.
I agree, Mr. Harris. Of course, I wouldn't want Holmes to know about it.
When did Holmes first suspect that Hawkins had murdered old Mother Fishface, Doctor?
Oh, he was pretty sure of it, Mr. Harris, when he realized Hawkins had run for a doctor without first stopping to break a window or turn off the gas.
In other words, Hawkins was taking no chances the old girl might come to.
That's about the size of it.
And now I wonder if you'd like to give us an idea about what we can look forward to next week, Dr. Watson.
Well, now, let me see. I think that next week I'll tell you how witchcraft suddenly came to life again in the west of England, and how the investigation of a fairy ring in the grass and a weather-beaten broomstick covered with medieval recipe for flying ointment led Holmes to one of the most diabolical criminals he ever encountered. I call it the laughing lemur of Hightower Heath.
Sounds appropriate for what is practically Halloween.
Why do you think I chose it, Mr. Harris? Why do you think I chose it?
The makers of Clipper Craft Clothes and 924 leading stores from coast to coast have brought you another in the new series of broadcasts featuring the world's most famous detective, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is produced and directed by Basil Lochran, with special music by Albert Berman. Holmes is played by John Stanley, Dr. Watson by Alfred Shirley. If you don't know your Clipper Craft dealer, write Clipper Craft, 200 Fifth Avenue, New York City. Your National Guard is destined to play a more important part than ever before in America's security plans. The National Guard offers young men regular Army pay and training without interference with their normal civilian life. If you are between the ages of 17 and 35, married or single, join your local unit of the National Guard. Be sure to listen next week to Sherlock Holmes in The Laughing Lemur of Hightower Heath. If you'd like to attend the Sherlock Holmes broadcasts in New York, see your local Clipper Craft dealer. He'll tell you how to obtain your tickets. This is Cy Harris speaking for Clipper Craft Clothes. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
That was the George Burns and Gracie Ellen Show and Sherlock Holmes, The Affair of the Politician. Hope it was enjoyable. Be sure to catch our other podcasts on Podbean. You can also listen to the podcast from the Rock 103 website at rock103.ca and apps such as Spotify, Google Podcast, and TuneIn. Be sure to come back again for another podcast feature of the Oldies Show. Thanks for tuning in. If you have any comments or questions or any ideas for a future episode regarding this topic, please send them to the Rocky Now Show at rockynowentertainment.ca. I'll be looking forward to reading them and creating new content for the show. You can check out this and other episodes on the Rock 103 website at rock103.ca. There is a link or two that goes directly to the podcasts. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. The Rocky Now Show.